and welcome into In the Code Garden. Today we have our very first special guest, Amanda Hogan, joining us. So we're going to be talking about how to create a portfolio website with GitHub Pages. But first, I need to tell you a little bit about Amanda. Amanda Hogan came to the realization that she wanted something more out of life while working at Microsoft and took the opportunity to retrain as a teacher and hasn't regretted it for a second. Since starting in teaching, she has taught all senior years in computing subjects. She has also had a unique opportunity to gain insight into the art and science of teaching by assisting fabulous teachers in most faculties in schools to use technology in their classrooms. She has had the opportunity to work with many different aspects of running the school as an IT consultant, from student leadership to database and web design. She also gets to occasionally play with robots and make computer games and watch students' eyes light up when they do the same. She has a side focus of teacher professional learning through her association with ICT Educators of New South Wales and with her work at the Australian Computing Academy. She should probably get around to writing that textbook, which, we've been talking about that for years now. I'm pretty sure, Amanda. Yeah. I'm Renee Noble, Regional Cloud Advocate for Microsoft. And like Amanda, I like to do many things. But yeah, especially technology, education, and community. So I feel like that's something that we have in common. So welcome, Amanda.
Thank you for having me, Renee.
Oh, so excited to have you as my first, guest host. To have a guest host, you've got to start with one of your best friends and inspirations. Really, like my teacher inspiration and my do all the jobs inspiration as well. So yeah, super excited. Shall we? Oh, first, there's a very important question that I did tell you was coming. What is your favorite plant, Amanda?
Okay, so there's many, but I think that because I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship, I've killed a number, but I've got one going that's been going for some years now, and I'm quite proud. It's the fiddle leaf fig.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah. On all the Facebook groups about plants, they are, contentious, so that's a good choice there. I don't think I have one. I'm not game. I've killed too many orchids to go into the fiddle leaf big business, I think. So let's kick it off with what we're going to do today. So in the Code Garden today, we have Amanda here because we're building a portfolio website, and Amanda works with a lot of students. So why did we pick this topic, I guess, is the question.
I think it's really important these days when you come out of high school and uni to be able to show that you have a track record of keeping projects and improving on projects and contributing to things over time. And I think that I know that when I went through my computer science degree, didn't do that very well. And I think that there are a lot of people that don't really have it on their radar until it's almost like I'm at the end of uni and really I should have done this some time ago. So I think it's a really good thing to start early, even when you don't feel like you have a lot to show off, because it then builds and you are able to show employers exactly what makes you tick, what you're excited about.
Yeah, I think it's just a really great way, or even for yourself to kind of see how you're growing and building those skills.
That's very true. I agree.
Yeah. And then just keep on working on I could really fill in this gap, or I did have that project that I've forgotten that I wanted to add that feature to, but hadn't got around to. So today we're going to talk about, why have a portfolio, which is we've just discussed a little bit. And then what is GitHub and GitHub Pages, because that's what we're going to be using today to build our portfolio site. We're going to get you started with a template. We're not going to make you start from scratch. So we have a link for you for that. So we're going to talk about how to fork that repo, talk about what's in a good portfolio, because it's all great to have a portfolio, but what are you going to write in it, and what's the tone, and what not to put in it. And then, we're going to build that portfolio and deploy it on GitHub Pages. So let's talk about our tools for the Code Garden today. Our gardening tools are Visual Studio Code. Actually, we're going to use github.dev, we've decided, which is down here. But you could use Visual Studio Code if you wanted.
And it's exciting to me. It's new. GitHub.dev is new to me, so.
Yeah, it's very easy to use. That's kind of why we're going to use it. It's just jump in the browser and like you don't have to install anything to get going. Yeah, so, and we're going to use a couple of extensions. We've got the CodeSwing extension, which is going to make it really easy to do our front-end web development. We've got GitHub and GitHub Pages, obviously. And we're also going to be showing you the live share extension, which is something Amanda and I have tried out, which means that we can both work on the same document, which I think is really cool. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Do that. But first, the question is, what is GitHub? And I guess for like a high school student standpoint, like, do we have any understanding of GitHub? Probably not. Like from my experience, no.
I tested this out with my year 12s yesterday, and there was very little understanding in the room. It's a thing that developers have.
It's true. That's not a lie. But yes, I guess what students might be familiar with is this image on the right, which is having all these files that have the same name except with something appended to the end to be like, oh, this is the final one. No, it's not quite done yet. Done 5. This was like my unique student experience before like getting into GitHub. And like when I was studying chemical engineering, obviously we weren't using GitHub. So there was a lot of files that look like this. But it is a tool for version control. And it's called GitHub because it's based on the Git protocol. But it means that you can keep updating your existing files, but kind of put a marker each step of the way. And you could always go back. So that's kind of what GitHub is about. Do you want to tell us how it actually does that, Amanda?
Okay, so this is scraping the edge of my understanding, but the way it works is it kind of takes a marker that says exactly where you're up to, and so you can have multiple users all working on the same file but at different version levels, and then you kind of pull them all together and merge them back to the main one so that you have your nice, pretty, finished file at all times. In theory. Like, I think everybody has to break GitHub at least once.
A little bit. But yeah, it's okay because it's all there. You can generally always go back. And then, yeah, it works based on like diffs, as it's called, like differences. So you'll have a file and it'll notice all the things that you've removed and all the things that you've added. And then it can just, instead of having to save the whole file every time, it just notices those things. And that way it can also notice those things about 2 different people's files. And then you could combine those differences to make the final product. So that's kind of how it works. But like, what is magic? Yeah, it is magic. It's really useful. And the number of times GitHub has saved my butt, like, it's just great. So I would get on there, and that's what we're going to do today. Because one of the reasons it saved my butt is that it backs your files up to the cloud. So if something goes wrong or you accidentally delete the wrong folder or something, you can just get it back from the cloud. You're going to just, clone that repo back down. It's all going to be okay. We're going to collaborate with teammates today, but not using GitHub. But you could also use GitHub to do that. We're going to use it using the extension. And it integrates with platforms, which means that we can just deploy stuff really easily. How was your experience in deploying your GitHub page, Amanda?
It was actually really seamless. It worked really well. I felt like it should almost have been harder, but it was, yeah. And the year 12s and I got their starter page happening yesterday, so they found it pretty easy too. Just getting that first thing, that presence online, is pretty easy.
Amazing. Yeah. Like, that's kind of my experience as well. The first time I was like, oh, I clicked the button and then it happened. Like, you had to wait a few minutes. So it was like, I must have done something wrong. It was too easy, but actually you just had to wait for the deploy. So that's it. Yeah. So we are going to be deploying this in GitHub Pages. So it's just a really easy way to launch a static website. So something that's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, which we'll talk a little bit about shortly, to the internet, and then you can just hand out that link and then it's ready to go. So, okay. We have had a question in the chat, which is how can we get this project, which we're going to be doing today, which is you can go to this site. So I would recommend doing that now, and maybe Sarah can drop that link in the chat for us. And then we're going to fork that repo. So forking a repo is how to basically get a copy of someone else's code that they've put on GitHub that they say you can have. So we are doing that collaboration part, I guess. You're all getting a copy of this template that we have prepared for you, which it's just a nice basic template. We're going to, jazz it up next week, but it's really, I think, just an easy place to start, I would say, Amanda.
Yeah, I really think so. And getting something basic up there, it just gives you some motivation. My students went home yesterday saying, oh, I'm going to add this and I'm going to tweak that and I'm going to look at some templates. So it's pretty exciting.
Amazing. That's so good. I love that you test on your students. So always good for a rehearsal, students. They just don't know that they're part of the rehearsal system.
That's right.
So I've gone to that link already here on this page. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to click fork. So I've made this in this Code Garden repo because you can't fork your own thing, which I've learnt previously during the stream, which is kind of annoying because I do want to fork my own thing. So I'm going to fork it as myself this time, and I'm going to just call it portfolio. I'm going to call it Portfolio Morning because we're doing 2 episodes of this. So if you really like this showing, you can join us again at 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time to see me and Amanda make the same site again. If you're only just waking up now and you're oh, I need to do it again in the afternoon, you can. So this is going to be Renee's portfolio. Okay, cool. Here we go. We're going to create the fork. So this is as easy as it gets to just get some code. Now I have this and it's in my own repo up here. So this is my copy of the code. Now, can you share the link again, Sarah? It should be possibly in the chat up above, but we do need that link again, which is you can go to, even if you just look in the top on the prior page. Let's duplicate that so I don't lose this one. You can go to in the Code Garden / portfolio template is where it's at. Actually, I'm just going to chuck that in. There we go. Sarah's ahead of us, so that's amazing. Okay, so we've got our fork here, and then I want to code this in github.dev. So I'm actually going to make a new tab, and then I'm going to change GitHub to GitHub, from github.com to github.dev, and that's how we're going to get into our editor for today, which is super chill. So while it loads up, we're going to talk about what's inside the template in the next step, because we kind of want to build on that, and so we're going to need to know a little bit about what the kind of stuff that is in there is going to be. So we're going to build a front-end website, which is made out of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Public service announcement, JavaScript and Java are not the same thing. They're just really named alike because of some sort of historical sales deal thing.
Marketing, yeah.
Marketing, that's it. But there is as similar as a car and carpet. That's it. So that's what we're
so many people call JavaScript Java for short by accident, and it's really not right.
No, it's quite telling that you're not quite a front-end developer yet if you do that. So that's our public service announcement. Don't put that you're a Java developer if you're trying to become a front-end developer on your portfolio site. But let's talk a little bit about these 3 first. Do you want to tell us about HTML, Amanda?
Yep. So HTML is just a way of doing text with a structure built in using tags. And tags are those triangle brackets with things inside them. And they, when I first started HTML developing in the ancient history, we were using a lot of P's and B's and I's. And this is not a thing that people use anymore. There are articles and sections, and it's really quite easy to structure your document in a way that makes styling it really easy.
Amazing. Then we get to styles, which is how we're going to add colors and fonts and sizes and make it be the shapes that we want with the pictures next to something and the text over here, making sure everything has some padding around it. And you can also do some basic things like hover, those kinds of things that you kind of take for granted in your site, where you hover over a box and then it, changes color or something. And then it's a button. CSS. Thank you, CSS. And finally, Amanda, we have JavaScript, or JS for short, which is the actual for short.
Yeah, so I know exactly as much JavaScript as I need to know, and no more. Don't even talk to me about synchronicity. But yeah, being able to have a menu that pops out, or have something on the screen that's dynamic and changes when the user clicks something is really fun and makes your website look really professional.
Amazing. So we're going to talk more about that one next week, because we're just going to stick with HTML and CSS today, but we'll hopefully add something fun next week to our things. But yeah, we've got a couple of examples of the kinds of things you would find in HTML. These are kind of your basic elements. So the things that you actually see on the page, like a heading or an image or a list of things, or something that's bold or italic is your emphasis and your strong things. So yeah, those are some of the things you'll be familiar with, but there's also a bunch of secret stuff behind the scenes. So there's just kind of like boxes that hold everything together. It's like divs and sections, as Amanda said. And then we've got some style examples, Amanda.
Yeah, so that's the margins and padding are very easily confused. They're the things that organize your placement of things on the screen, and how far away your text is from a border. And width is pretty self-explanatory. If you're styling things in boxes, then you're going to need to set its width. And fonts and colors are what make it fun and reflect your personality. And background images are generally, we want very washed out images to sit in the background, but they do liven up a website.
Amazing. Yeah, so keen to give that all a go. But let's go back to our portfolio now that it's alive. But we do need to set up our live share. So we're just going to do that. So I'm going to pass this link to Amanda. So give me the link. Share. I'm going to get that. And then I'm going to work out how to send this to Amanda, because I can't actually give you a direct message in the chat, seemingly. Interesting. Now that I'm a producer person. So I'm going to send that to you elsewhere. Give me
that's going to arrive.
We're going to get that in our GPN communications. Me and Amanda working on an amazing project called the Girls Programming Network together, which is where she's going to receive this. So copy that, and we're going to pop that over to Amanda. So this is just a way that Amanda's going to be able to join me in this editor, and she's going to be able to write stuff to us there. So we're going to pop Amanda back over here so I can see her again. Okay. So now we've got that set up, and meanwhile, while Amanda joins us, I'm going to take a little quick rundown through what we have. So I'm going to open the File Explorer. I've said previously we have the CodeSwing extension installed. So I'm actually going to start by doing Control-Shift-P, which opens up our palette. I'm actually going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see better. Control-Shift-P, and then it's already got from before because I've used it a lot, Open Swing, which is going to open CodeSwing. And it's actually going to it's going to ask us what we want to be using here. If you're going to do this with somebody else also, it's good to note that you should also add them as a contributor to your file, which I haven't done for Amanda because I've just included her. So we're going to, verify a thing. We're going to take this off the main screen for a hot second. And I'm going to do this. Okay, now, because I've made a new file, we practiced all this, but then we needed to make a new one so we could all do it together. So now we get the infamous or famous Amanda on here, and she's going to be part of our team. And that's how you could add somebody else to your stream as well. But now, while Amanda's joining us, potentially still, we can have a look. Oh, she's here. Look, we can see Amanda's cursor, which has disappeared. Oh, there she is. I can change stuff. There she is, right there on our screen. Yeah, so really convenient. Say if you're working on a group project at university and you're living through a global pandemic or something, and you're unable to be with your peers in person. So that's what it's really useful for that. And CodeSwing's really great because we can see our whole project over here. and this is what our template looks like. So we've got our header section with our contact info here and just a little blurb about yourself. And then we're going to have 3 different projects by the end. But we've just given you one to start off with because it's the same thing, and it's going to be really great to see how the sections work together. So let's take a look at the code. First
Copy
off,
and paste is our friend.
Copy and paste is always our friend. Copy and paste is the developer's best friend. Amanda, do you want to tell us what the head section is about? Because we didn't actually see any of the stuff in the thing.
No. Okay. So a head section is a way to set up things that aren't shown on the screen. So you can see that there's a title here that says Renee Noble Portfolio, and that's so Renee's name is on every one of your portfolios. If you don't want Renee's name on every one of your portfolios, then you can change that there in the title. That's what comes up in this little tabby bit when somebody opens that web page.
Yeah.
And then the linking stuff is linking to stuff that is in other files that we need to display our web page properly. So we've got a style sheet, which is where we're going to set up all of our colors and fonts and formatting. And then we have
other people's stuff
and some fonts from Google and things like that.
Yeah.
So these are all things that we don't have to write, which is excellent.
Yeah, this one here, Font Awesome, is really good. It's what's giving us these little icons. Love the little icon. It just makes it look really great. But all I had to do was say, please get me the icons. So that's it. So, okay, now we've got the head, and then we've got the body, which is where you put the stuff that you're actually using. So it goes all the way down, basically. So inside it, we've got the header section. It's very confusing how we have the head and a header, which I sometimes get confused about.
It is a thing that's confusing.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so in here, we've got a section because where does our section go to? Because we want to have kind of boxes that hold all the things together and be able to, address those boxes. So this section is possibly extra. But we've got this article. So articles are kind of like, different little bits and pieces, and especially things that you want to be repeated. If you think about like a Twitter post, like they're all the same. They're probably be articles. So they're all the same format, and you want to apply the same format to all of them. This one, we've got just a little lone article that's sitting here off to the side. It's got my title, or your aspiring title. So I might write full stack developer, but if you're still at uni, you might say aspiring full stack developer. So we've got options there, and then a little blurb about yourself. So I've just got in here lorem ipsum. So we don't actually have content about me yet, but you can just flavor it however you want to flavor those bits. Then we go over to the contact me section, which, as we said, has all these fun icons, which you can just get them as we discussed above with that link. We get them from the class. The class in here is going to say in the CSS, there's going to be something that says classes called this fab FA GitHub get to have this cute little GitHub icon, and then it will just put it there for you. So that's a super easy way to get that for you. And then we've just got that repeated, and then everything has a link next to it. So that's what's happening there. We've got an icon, and we've got a link to profile, or so my email address or my Twitter handle, etc. So what's up next down the page, Amanda?
Okay, so then we have after we've gone through the first section, we have another area that is a banner, which gives us our heading, that my projects, that goes across the whole page. And then under that, we have these articles that we're expecting to repeat over and over. Oh, whoa. My mouse got a little carried away. So I've got a project title and I've got the description that we have here over on the right, and then I have list items, so the the unordered list that I've got on the right that explains the things that I want you to see in this project. And then I have a couple of link buttons to see it live or see the GitHub repo. And so they hover, they have a little bit of on hover styling in them so that they look like buttons rather than just boxes on the screen. It gives an indicator to the user that that's something that they can click. And they all have an A tag, so that's what telling them we're going to put an address in there where they can click to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Once we've set up one, we can make 3, 4, 5, as many projects as you want to showcase.
That's it. Yeah, just copy this whole section. It's conveniently called project, so we know what it is, and then we can just copy this and bam, bam, bam. We're going to put more articles here where this nice.
We even have a comment that says.
Have a comment for that.
Imagine commenting HTML. Who does that?
Apparently me. So we've got that all there. It does not look the greatest when it's in a narrow screen, but we might fix that next week. We'll see. But also just tell people that they should look at it on a laptop, not on a phone, for the time being. But we've also got our style, which is our CSS. If you haven't done much HTML or CSS before, you can go and take a look back at my Code Garden episodes from July, where we did HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and we spent the whole time just learning a bunch of different, tags and a lot of different styles. But we've done it for you here. And this part doesn't need to be here because it's commented out. I obviously didn't double check that before I gave it to all of you. But we've got our body style, which is just setting some stuff that we want to see on the whole page. Like the font, we want it to be consistent throughout the whole thing. Or like the, font size for most of the text. And the width of the page. Like it doesn't get any wider when we do, when it gets to a certain size. So that's what we've got going on there. And then just a few other fun things like laying out the things, like how is this thing next to that one? We're using a grid grid philosophy. I don't know. Grid layout. That's what we'd probably call it.
We're calling it layout. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've got some colors and stuff set in here. You obviously have your own personality and probably should choose your own colors. But it's so easy to go in and update the colors right there. So you'd pick your favorite color. But yeah, this is kind of just setting out this, putting all the things next to each other and doing some fun things.
I love that it's got a color picker. I remember the days when we had to remember hex numbers in our minds. That we don't do that anymore. It's great.
No, I can't do that. So thank goodness we're here in the future where I don't have to do that because the stream would go very poorly. So we've got a bunch of colors, a bunch of sizes, and a bunch of layout stuff, and a bunch of other stuff that is still in here. So feel free to get rid of anything that's commented out because that's there. But it doesn't need to be because it's not currently doing anything. And we've got even some fun things like, how these little bullet points are green. That's the thing you can set in CSS. But I think that's possibly, and we've got our hovers down here. So that's how you do a hover. If you're like, I want mine to do something different when I hover, you can have it go purple or whatever you would like. But shall we talk about what goes into a good portfolio before we make our portfolio, Amanda?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I think that you should tailor your portfolio for what it is that you're trying to achieve. Who is it that you want to look at your portfolio? Is it for a scholarship or is it for a job or, what is it that we're trying to achieve? And you might show different things depending on what you're trying to achieve. I have a fun project that I explored when I was doing a PyCon talk, which doesn't relate at all to education and my life as a teacher, but is kind of fun. So if I wouldn't show it to people that I was setting a portfolio up to show off my education stuff, but it is a good thing to put in there if I ever wanted to go back into the world of development or if I wanted to apply for a scholarship for something. Or if I wanted to prove my community engagement, that's another way. So you're going to sit down with your my GitHub is a mess, and I assume other people have a bit of a mess too. And so, things that I've forked, things that I've played with, things that I've discarded. And so being able to curate that list into the things that are the most important for this purpose is really important. And also knowing what I can leave out.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me and making a portfolio is links or it didn't happen, or pics or it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because if you don't link your GitHub or like a picture of the thing that you made and you said, oh yeah, I made this website. It's like, did you make the website? Like, I'd like to know anything more about what that looked like, and the quality, I think, is what you're trying to convey when you're showing off these projects. What should we include, I guess, is a big question as well for people writing a resume or creating a portfolio site, especially because it's so like exemplary of what you do.
Yeah, we need to make sure that we don't have those silly side projects that we were just throwing together, and they're not well structured, and they're not really showcasing what we can do. They're just a thing I did that time. We don't have to show everything. It's very important that you can sit there and carefully work out what is worth showcasing and what is able to sit in your GitHub just quietly minding its own business.
That's it. And like sometimes you're really proud that you did something because it was a really big moment in your life back when you were 17 years old. But now that you're 25, maybe it's not as relevant anymore, and it doesn't really showcase the skills that you've developed over the past 7 years or something, for instance. So knowing when to let go of things being showcased, but they're still there in your heart and in your GitHub, I think is something important to remember.
Yeah, there is a thing that where we cringe when we look at code we wrote not that long ago, 2 years ago. Oh my goodness, what was I thinking? So you can discard those if you feel like you don't want to be associated with that person, with old Amanda.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. And don't forget to be yourself. I think is really important, because as a portfolio, and if you Google for Bing search for the best portfolios out there, they all have some like theme, and they really like are memorable, and you go, oh, that's really cool. So they're really fun to look at. So I think we want to encourage everyone to be themselves. Yeah. What do you think, Amanda?
Yeah, I think it's really important that you find, even if you're using a template that you found online that is made by someone who's much better at CSS than you, you can still add your own flavor to it. Don't be like back in the old days when everybody's PowerPoint slideshow looked exactly the same, with ducks that broke computers with hammers. We want to be individuals. We want to showcase what we're about in our portfolio.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. Well, we better go build our portfolio then. So let's build it out. So we're going to leave the CSS here for today. But if you've already gone in and changed your colors, great work being yourself. I love it. But let's jump in and change up. Let's add some more articles, I think is most important. So firstly, I'm gonna copy this article, and I'm just going to copy it 3 times. I reckon we'll copy it so I have 3 of them for our demonstration purposes. So that's 2 and that's 3. So now we can see, I go over here, we've got 1, 2, 3 projects there for us. And now we can also go, and I'm going to need some more images. As great as these placeholders are, I'd like a real one, I reckon, because as we said, Pixar didn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go, and here to add something. If you're using VS Code, you can just drag them in from wherever you are. But if you're not, you need to go and get them and upload them. Now, where did I put them? It is the next question. Oh boy, they're somewhere in around here. Let's just go all the way to the place where they are. Never opens me exactly where I expect when I open this up. So let's go into the practice one where I have already put them in. Portfolio test. We love portfolio test. And here's my 3 projects that I'm going to showcase. You can see these different pictures in here now. Okay, so let's put our swing back to where it was before. Okay, shall we? What shall we start with, Amanda? Shall we put in the pictures?
Yeah, I think so.
They make it look a lot better already, I think. Okay, so what have I called them? I've called them a party. I've called them translate. And I've called it Wordle. These are all projects of mine that I've done on a stream. So if you're like, that looks fun, and I would like to include that in my portfolio, you too can go and do that stream, and then your portfolio will basically be done for you by the end of this stream, right? So let's have a look. We've got these sitting in here now. So we've got our party invitation.
That's so much better.
It's a lot better. It looks like we know what we're doing. Yeah, and now we probably should write some different things about the projects or the technologies. Or maybe I'll just list the technologies. I don't think we didn't have heaps of time in the stream. And I want you to be yourself when you talk about things. So I don't really want to tell you exactly what to write. We can write a couple of things in, but we should probably like change our name and stuff though. Okay. So, shall we do actually, you should start by changing this here to not be Renee Noble portfolio. That's my hot tip.
Yes, definitely.
Be yourself, don't be me. So I'm also going to update this one to be my name. And then a title. Yeah. What's your recommendation for students, Amanda, who are don't have a title?
Who don't have it? I like the aspiring. That was really great.
Yeah, we could have aspiring.
Aspiring full stack developer. Absolutely. That's what I'm going to be next.
Great, I love it. So you could put that in there, and it could look like that, which would be pretty cool. I'm going to remove mine because I think as a woman tech who is already full stack developer, it would be a bad look for me to have mine say aspiring still. Going for confidence here, everybody. So that's where we put our title there. And then we can go in here and write a little paragraph about ourselves. It's escaped. Okay. So we could go in here and I could write tech lover who is enthusiastic about education and community projects or something. Lots of experience, with data science or something like that. Maybe, if you could write a bunch of stuff there. That's a bit short, so you probably want to add a little bit more to it. What else kind of stuff would you put in your little blurby thing, Amanda?
In your placeholder text, you said about you and your goals. So it's quite a nice thing to put goals in there.
Yeah. Working towards changing the environment with technology or something. Changing climate change, not changing the environment deliberately. That's kind of not what I'm going for, but something like that. We might also want to put in like a break. So it's
I was going to say, maybe we should point out why that didn't wrap like your carriage returns didn't really work then.
No, they didn't. I just kind of thought, it went on without thinking. So we kind of want to make it into another paragraph here. So I'm going to close that paragraph and it's going to start one for me against my will. There we go. There we go. So now if I bring that back, we've got two paragraphs.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah, much better. If you're like, I want more gaps between there, we could do, some breaks. That's just like, I want to add more space, more inches. So there we go. So we could, fill that out with your goals. So as Amanda said, she wants to be a full stack developer. So, and maybe you have like, I really want to work in education technology and I've, because I've been working with all these education groups or something like that. So we've got that area there. Then we've got our little contact me section. So we want these to be actually your things. So this thing here is going to open up an email client if you have your email address in it. And then it will pre-fill your email. So if I had, I'm not going to put my actual email in it, but Renee@example.com. And then you could also read it because honestly, I don't ever want it actually to open those things up for me personally. That's not the email client that I use, but it could be there. I think people use them. Do you use them, Amanda, when you click the buttons and is that you set up such that that's a useful life experience for you?
Yes.
That's good. I should be more like Amanda. I just copy and put them wherever I'm going. But you've got options there for people who are smart like Amanda and people who copy and paste it like me, because I never set anything up properly to make my life easier. Yeah, so then here, the piece de resistance, I would say, Amanda, your GitHub profile link.
Yes, it's very important. And we can even set up a GitHub profile page that is, it's maybe for future streams, we can show how to personalize your GitHub homepage.
Yes, we could definitely do that. Amanda will come back and we'll do it together. It'll be fun. It's a really good blog out there that I followed on how to do it, and it's just good. But I haven't actually deployed it, so we should do that. Then we could both have an awesome GitHub profile page by the end of the episode. If you have a Twitter, you probably shouldn't link my Twitter, which I've also left in here. But you can follow me on Twitter or Amanda on Twitter and keep up with all the things that we're doing, which we're going to tell you more about at the end of the show because we've got a cool event coming up soon. So yeah, this is, and then finally you could put your LinkedIn. There's more of these things if you've got like a Medium or a whatnot, various other fun little links that you can just say, please give me that and like that icon, and then it just looks so professional, I think. So that's pretty good. Cool. Okay, I think we've done. Look, let's just like make that look like I can write my name, and then that's probably enough for that section there. Okay, great. Yeah, onto the projects, I think, before we deploy it.
I think LinkedIn is spelled wrong, but
no, that sounds like something I'd do.
No, I think you fixed it.
I didn't put in my actual link, but yeah, good. Okay, we're good. Cool. Okay, so what do we want to do next, Amanda? Possibly give some titles to these things, I'm imagining. So I don't know if Amanda can hear me anymore.
Oh, anyway. Sorry, my sound did drop out for a second.
Okay, all good. Shall we give these some titles then, these projects?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, great. So I would
me to have a go at titling the first one?
Name my projects. I love it.
So
I've actually added these pictures in the wrong order than our practice, so I'm going to change that here. So we're going to do translation because that's my favorite one, sorry. I think. No, that's fine. I set us up for failure. But this is my favorite project, I think. It's a really fun one where we made it like using actually cognitive services. You can just give it text to translate. So that's a really cool use of an API that I think is worth mentioning here in the description. And like explaining what it does and how you did it is what you want to put into the project description here. Yeah. So, awesome. And yeah, translate your own text. You might also want to like showcase like what it was. Was it a web app? Was it a native app, etc.?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. That way it's right up front. It's like, hey, I'm making web apps, and that's why you should hire me to be a web developer, potentially. Okay, cool. So we've got that there. While Amanda is up there, should we? So we've got a list of stuff here. Shall we get rid of the examples maybe as well? Amanda's going to give us actual project description. I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a red hot go.
I love it. Much better than my Lauren Ipson. While Amanda's describing the project that I made, which is probably a better description than I'll give it, then I'm going to change up this section here. So we've got a list of technologies. So I've got a little heading here. It's in a span because I called it a highlight. And then it gives it this little colorful heading as well. So that's what that span is there doing. It's in the CSS. But yeah, let's make this a list of not examples, but 3 technologies. As luckily, I prepared these ones here in advance for this project. Cool. Okay.
I keep clicking on the wrong thing. I'm watching you on your screen and then trying to type on my screen, and my brain just got really confused.
That is fair. I was like, I don't know how that's going to be tricky because you can have 2 things of the same thing on the page. So yeah, we're using Python to translate text and use Fast to host it. And yeah, the other thing is we use Azure Cognitive Services API to do the translation because it's better when you make Microsoft do the hard work. It's really fun. There's a stream on it. You can watch it. It's called the Pen Pal Project, and it's on my website.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's really fun and cute. And I made it have that little, I made it have a cute little background here, as you can see here. It doesn't come like that in the workshop, but I added that. Azure Cognitive Services. It's in the list of technologies.
Look at that. I can actually read.
So yeah, really fun to just do that and use the API. Make Microsoft do the hard work for you. Don't learn 75 different languages or whatever. Just make Microsoft translate stuff. I'm gonna get rid of the project description placeholder as well. But it's looking pretty good. It looks like you can see Amanda typing in real time there. Yeah, that looks like a pretty good description there, especially if it's like a small project. But maybe if it's a bigger project, go into like the architecture or something like that to talk about, how it was structured and using other different technologies. So in here, we'd want to put in a link to the repo. So let's actually get that link to the repo. No, I want to go to me. And then we'll pop that in as an example. And this one is Pen Pal Project. I grab that. And then I go back to here and I'll whack that in here. I don't remember if this one's actually currently live. I think it is somewhere, but I didn't have the link on hand. But if you have a live website, highly recommend including that link so people can get that full experience, because as good as this picture is, it's way more fun when you actually type the text in and then you say Japanese and then it turns it into Japanese. It's really good. So would recommend live links. Cool.
I think that if we didn't have a live site, we would remove the button so that it doesn't look like it's a broken link.
Absolutely. So yes, and that's what we actually did in our little practice friend. So I actually got rid of in my test one, I got rid of See It Live for the Wordle one because we didn't actually make a live site. We just did some data science and made some like Python, scripts to like play Wordle, to be a Wordle bot, to do some natural language processing, to see if The Simpsons makes you better at Wordle, etc. So not actually, it does, hot tip, but not actually something you can go and visit, but you can go and see the code in the GitHub repo. So so because we were short on time, shall we just pop in the one that we prepared earlier, Amanda, for the rest of them, and then deploy?
I think maybe, yes.
Yes.
Typing is not that exciting.
No, it's not that exciting. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Okay, and now we have some lists of technologies in there. We have just the one link in the bottom there because it's not alive. But I didn't give these descriptions because, well, we could have done that. Let's do that next week. We'll talk more about actually wording your stuff and making it sound good next week. But yeah, next fortnight, that's when it is. So we've got all of that. So let's go and actually go live, deploy it to GitHub Pages. Oh, whoop. That's a sneak preview for what we're doing in a second. Okay, so let's go back to our thing here. Then we need to go to settings. And as Amanda said, this is going to be really easy. And you're going to be like, what? Haven't I been doing this all along? So settings. And then we want to go to pages, which is right here, easily labeled. Deploy from a branch, which is already selected. Select the branch, which is the main branch. And then we're going to save that. And then we could add a custom domain. So if you wanted to be, have yours on like jennysmith.com, you could go through this process to set it up. And then you could look extra professional. But this is already a great step towards having a portfolio. So now that's going to be deploying. And where we need to go to get to that is, this is the part that I'm going to always forget. GitHub.io, I believe.
Yeah, but it should be username.github.io. But I think that if you go back and refresh the Pages page, it will give you your own link.
Oh, that's so much better than what I've been doing.
So click away and to a different part of the settings and then come back. Oh, it hasn't deployed yet.
Okay, we're waiting. While we wait, we're going to talk about other things that you can watch, such as the PyCon, our education showcase that me and Amanda, as well, are running with the Reactor, with our charity that we run, Tech Inclusion, where we make education to technology accessible to everybody. Do you want to tell us about the showcase, Amanda?
Well, yes. So for the last, I think 4 years, we've been running an education showcase at PyCon AU each year in the pre-conference tracks. And for the last 3 years, I think we have had students come and showcase their work in the afternoon. And it's really a highlight of the day. And even developers who've been in the industry for a really long time really enjoy seeing what's coming out of high schools. And so with PyCon AU cancelled this year because of COVID difficulties and things like that, we decided that we really still wanted the students to have an opportunity to showcase their work. And so we have worked with the Reactor, and Tech Inclusion jumped into gear, and we've made an afternoon, evening session on next Tuesday, when you can either jump online or actually come in person to the Reactor to have a look at these students' videos. They have videoed their work, but they have done a really good job. I had to sit there and assist in the choice of which students to showcase, and it's really hard each year. There are some pretty amazing kids out there.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I'm keen to see them. We've also got a couple of talks, so I'll be speaking about my secret business that I run.
Sorry.
And
yes.
Alex Hope will be talking about security. So we've got some grown-ups as well speaking, but also, like, really, we're there for the kids. They're so amazing. Like, they're going to upstage me, so I'm a little bit nervous to talk before them, So it's going to be awesome.
I'm really excited to get back into I know it's hybrid, but to actually see people face to face. Like, we haven't had a PyCon for a bunch of years, and there haven't been a lot of conferences get back into gear yet. So it's nice to have an opportunity to network and see some of our colleagues.
Yeah, it'll be great to see people in all 3 dimensions. I'm so excited. Let's go take a look back and see if our site is deployed yet. Do a little refresh. There we go. So we get my username.github.io portfolio morning, and then we're going to go, and there we are. I haven't committed any of my code, so it's not actually there. But let's do that. A very important step.
Let's do that.
Which is, everyone forgets. So we're going to put all of these things in here. And then we can write our message, which is content for portfolio. Okay, we're going to tick that. And then it's going to push it automatically because we're in github.dev. If you are on VS Code, you also need to push that manually through the buttons that appear in here. There'll be a push on GitHub in VS Code. So it's going to take another minute to update that, I'm pretty sure. So that's when we're going to go to the other things that you can go practice at home. So we've put together a cloud skills challenge for you for learning this content. So there's a bunch of different stuff on Microsoft Learn. If you join in Cloud Skills Challenge, you can work through whether you need to get started on GitHub and you haven't used it much before. There's a module for that. There's a module for how to install VS Code. There's modules for HTML, CSS, JavaScript, a bunch of different stuff, and how you can build something and deploy it, etc. There's also on my website, reneenoble.com, for today's episode, there's a link to our build a resume site with GitHub Pages as well. So if you're like, I need 2 GitHub pages, you could even link between those. That'd be really cool to have. So jump on to the site and you can do that. Yeah, and this is a link to that one. I actually have another link, which I'm going to put in the chat for you, which is here. Build your resume site. That's a really great one to follow through. If you want more detail about how we did all of this, it takes you through all of those steps as well. So we've got that. And then, yeah, if you want to learn more about any of these, any of the HTML, CSS stuff, we've got stuff from July Code Garden, which was how to build, get started with front end. So we've got basic CSS, HTML, and deploying to GitHub Pages. Going through more slowly because we get a whole episode for each one. We've got how to do structure and layout. So all the stuff with the putting the boxes next to each other and stuff, that's covered in episode 2. And then JavaScript to bring your site to life is covered in episode 3. And there's also a workshop that I ran on getting started with GitHub, getting started. So you can learn more about GitHub and how like committing and all of those different bits and pieces work. But let's jump back and see if our site actually, there we go. Renee Noble, full stack developer. That's me. And now it looks like a site. So hopefully, yeah, you've been able to follow along. And yours also says your name at the top. Or when you deploy it, it will. Yeah. So that's kind of, I think that's kind of what we've got for this episode. Anything else you want to add before we sign off, Amanda?
No, I think that's really exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm keen to do more and maybe put some content like the descriptions in that luckily Amanda wrote one for me. But yeah, we can talk more about like how to write a good description next week as well. And then also, yeah, that's kind of, we're going to talk about some JavaScript. We can add some, interactive features that make you look a little bit more glam and showcase a few different skills, because like the portfolio in itself is an item in the portfolio.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's it. So if you haven't registered for that, jump onto this site, which is where you can also find the links that I've mentioned before. There's a link to the Cloud Skills Challenge and a link to the workshop on writing resume. It's all here. But yeah, if you want to do more, you're going to come back in a fortnight or come back this afternoon and do the same thing again with me and Amanda. Yeah, but I think that's all we've got for today. I think Sarah will come back and she's going to tell you that you should do a survey for us, because we really appreciate when you do the surveys, and she's going to tell you more other stuff in a second, maybe. Where is Sarah? There she is.
Hi, Renee. Sorry. Yeah, look, all the links have been added to the comments section, so you'll be able to check that out there throughout the presentation. If you have time to fill out the survey with the event code 17006, that would be great. And that is it. You said everything else, so we will see you either this afternoon or next week for
Fortnight.
part 2.
Awesome.
Fortnight. Sorry.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, and thanks to Amanda for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Catch you all later. Bye.